I'm Josephine from the Pointe shop. I'm at Oklahoma City Ballet right now, and I'm with soloist Amanda Popejoy. She's going to show us how she prepares her pointe shoes for the stage. What kind of pointe shoes do you have?
Okay, so I wear Popejoy. These are glissé, and they actually don't make the glissé anymore.
I was just going to say.
So about a couple years ago when they discontinued the glissé, I kind of went through a panic of like trying to buy up all the last pairs, or for the company to buy all of what they could find. And then I contacted Popejoy, and they still had the mold, so they could still make my shoe, which was a blessing. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So if you're a soloist at a ballet company, you can get discontinued shoes. If your shoes get discontinued, you probably will not be able to get them. But now glissés are a pretty wide shoe. Yeah, they're
a wide shoe. I have pretty wide but short toes, so I feel like I needed something with a
it's like your hand.
Exactly.
It's like tiny.
Yeah. And so I have like these little stubby toes, and like, you know, so I really needed a kind of a square shoe. But I do a lot of things to my shoe because of the shape of my feet, so that way I can have the best look on stage.
Now you must have been wearing these shoes for a long time if you're wearing a glissé.
Yes. So I've worn Popejoy probably since I first started dancing professionally. And then once you find the shoe, sometimes I've tried other pairs, and I've worn different things, but I just keep coming back to the same shoe. And so that was one of the things where it was like, okay, I think I just need to stick with Popejoy.
Because after a while, it just becomes home.
Yes.
So it's really difficult. It's like, I love Popejoy, how like low they cut their fabric, and I love how light it is.
Yes.
It doesn't like weigh you down like in some other shoes.
Right.
So I definitely see the benefit of that. Just, I know that they discontinued the shoe because not a lot of people have like these really great, like wide, square, like higher profile feet, which I think is actually the best type of foot to be on pointe.
It is helpful. I feel like even from when I was young, like I went up to pointe, and my teachers were like, okay, so it was very easy for me to get up to pointe. And
you blessed child.
Yes. I didn't have some of the struggles, but along with really flexible feet sometimes comes weak ankles. So that has been kind of something I've had to be careful with, is make sure that I'm getting back in shape the correct way, just like everybody else. Lots of releves and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your shoes.
Okay.
You have like new, medium, dead.
Exactly. So these were for contemporary ballet for Pedal that we did, Helen Pickett, at the end of the season last year. And what I do to my shoes is we were having a lot of trouble with our stage being very slick. And that's, I think that's pretty common when dancers are, we go on tour, we do different things, where we're on different services. And so I was getting really frustrated with, like, especially doing contemporary work where you're having to step out, you're having to really push, and sliding was really frustrating. So, and I know they make a lot of products, using leather for different types of shoes. I didn't see any for Popejoy, so I decided I was just going to make my own.
Perfect.
So I went to, just like a Hobby Lobby or like a, craft store, and I got some leather. And what I did is I used paper, and I put, my pointe shoe on the paper, and I traced around to kind of make the shape, and then I made another little kind of where the, right here where I would want it covered. Yes.
And so it fits perfectly to the platform and to the top of your
Right. So it kind of goes over like that, so that way I can, have a little bit more traction. So then I use kind of like a leather craft glue, and I use it to glue that on. But and then I do another thing to my shoe is that you can see here where I've cut down
the vamp.
So one thing is, since I have such short toes, I would go to Dim Pointe. When they remade Popejoy, I feel like, they put some new features. I felt like the vamp was higher than what I had recently had. And so I had a bunch of shoes, and I was like, well, I don't want to send them back, wait for pointe shoes to come in. So I was like, well, I'm going to just try. So I Frankenstein my pointe shoes. So I take my scissors, and I'll cut right here, kind of like a little, very small little V. And then from there I'll use my floss, and I'll stitch it up, so that way it still kind of has somewhat of a clean line. After they're worn, they get a little bit roughed up, but kind of lowers the vamp here, for me, and so I feel like that's a better line.
Now, that's actually really cool that you told us about that, because a lot of dancers, they call me and they're like, I love the shoe, but the vamp is way too long. Is there any way we can either get a custom or whatever? Yes, you can get a custom, but it takes 8 to 12 weeks to make. And if you're a dancer that's growing, that's probably not the best idea, because you'll probably grow out of them before the shoe comes in.
Right.
So I actually do tell them about cutting your shank or cutting the vamp a little bit to make it a little bit shorter. So you can definitely customize so that you can roll through a little bit easier. And if you have trouble with your shoe pulling you back, then that's something that would be fantastic.
So that was kind of something that was happening with me. I felt like the fabric was in the way, that it wasn't allowing me to get as far over as I wanted. Now, this does make your shoes a little softer, you know, because you don't have that support there. So they, you know, for me, it's okay because I have a company buying my Pointe shoes, but for, you know, a student, you know, that might be a little bit more, you know, expensive for them, you know.
That's right. If you do any type of customization at all, you have to be very mindful that some of these customizations will shorten the lifespan of your shoe. Amanda gets free shoes.
For us, it's nice because I can put them on and go on stage, but it's, you know, total different ballgame as a student.
Exactly. So how quickly do you go through your shoes?
So I usually go through a pair to 2 pairs a week, depending on what we're doing. If we're performing a lot, I can go through more than that. But if, you know, if it's just like a normal rehearsal week, probably just a pair a week. Okay, so I know you probably rotate between many different shoes. When do you know when like your shoe is perfect and you're saving it for stage? For me, it's like, it's that sweet spot where it's like not too loud for one thing, you know, like our directors are always like, you know, soften your shoes, do things, you know, because our stage is kind of acoustically really loud, and so we have to have them at a certain, you know, sound to them. It also has to have enough support to get through. So once it hits that spot, then those are like, okay, we'll put those to the side, we'll save them for the performance.
It's perfect now. And I'm sure this kind of quiets the shoes as well.
She does, and also too, it just gives you a little bit more traction, so you feel like you can reach out, you know, where I feel like sometimes on a slick stage we tend to pull underneath ourselves, which then you feel like, I'm not really dancing, you know, so it's nice to have something on your shoe.
It gives you a little bit more range.
And it's pretty easy to put on, you know, I'll pretty much just lay it on here. I usually there's a little bit more of a softer side that I usually put, on this one I can't tell as much, but there's one that's a little softer sometimes.
It's like this part.
Yeah. And so I will, you know, place it on the shoe, kind of, you know, make sure that I got, you know, exactly how I want it. And then I'll take my craft glue and I'll put a little glue here. Careful not to get it on the outside because it makes it slicker. And then I'll, you know, attach it to the shoe, and then I'll pull it down over here and attach it. And I just have to make sure that all the edges have enough glue that it's not gonna peel up. But once it's on, it's on. One time I was like, well, I'm gonna just see if I can peel it off and put it, no, not coming off.
It's gone. Right. No, but that's actually a really cool idea, because a lot of dancers now, you're not allowed to use rosin on your beautiful like Marley floors in your studio.
And then I tend to step on my shoe, you know, right here a little bit to open up a little bit wider. And then I will, not on this pair, but you can see here where I've also done jet glue on the shank. So I like to do it right here, as well as sometimes I'll take it and I'll go like around the edges here. And then also too, sometimes I'll even take it on the inside and I'll put the jet glue on the inside as well. For the box, I like the front part to be pretty soft, you know, so I can get up and over my shoe quickly.
Right, and that's different with everyone. Some dancers will just destroy the box, so they'll just jet glue inside the box like indefinitely.
Yeah, it makes it like so hard and so loud. So that's one thing too, you have to be careful with jet glue, is that it can make your shoes louder.
That's right. Right, so you have to determine where you need the jet glue and where you need extra support. It might be the arch, it might be the box, so it just depends on your dancing abilities and your technique. Okay, so another thing that I noticed is that when you cut the vamp, where does the elastic go?
So that's the thing. After that, there is no more elastic. For how I cut them, so I can actually show you on a pair if you want. So I usually take my scissors, there you go, and then from there I will just cut out this little shape. So kind of
just a little triangle.
Barely anything, because it will kind of fray and it will start to make it a little bit. Also too, I like that it makes the shape a little bit more of a oval shape, you know, so you get a little bit longer in the vamp.
And it's not really much at all. It's just that little bit, but even shortening that little part of that vamp, it makes a big difference in your roll through and your lines.
Yes, and then actually after I sew this, I do another little thing, because it does kind of open this area up here. And if, you know, you have a narrow heel, which I feel like I have wider toes and it tapers down, I do this here where I sewn up the inside of the shoe a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll put the shoe on, and then I will kind of take this here, and I will do a little stitch that kind of closes up that side. Also, sometimes too, the heel can kind of slip towards the back, right? And so if you do that, you can kind of keep that heel right underneath you.
That's a big problem with pointe shoes, is that a lot of dancers, they have problems with the heel being too baggy.
Yes.
So if you have that, even if you pull the drawstring and you still find that there's some extra gaping in the heel, this is something that you can do in order to just make it a little bit more streamlined from stage, so it's not so baggy.
Right, and that really kind of, it also too keeps the shank right underneath where you need that support, so it doesn't kind of start to slide to the back.
Yes, so it's functional as well.
And also too just creates that nice line.
Yes, it's
a very nice part.
I mean, you already wear your shoes a bit tight for your feet,
I do.
And a lot of ballerinas do that because you want it to look nice and sleek, and you have more control over your shoes when it's tighter. That's something that you want to consider. I know when you put on your pointe shoes for the first time, you want it to kind of feel like a bedroom slipper. Do you remember that?
Yes. I also, when I put my shoes on, I feel like at first it's like, oh my gosh, I can barely get these on, you know? And so I'll put them on. Usually, you know, I step on this area, I'll get this part wet. I know there's other, you know, you can use rubbing alcohol, other things that kind of keep the shape better, but since I wear them right away, get them wet here. I also get them wet in the back, so I can get a little extra stretch and that I need when I especially put on a new pair of shoes. So also too, so you know, you're not in pain.
Exactly.
So you can get through. So, and Capezios are known for breaking down quickly, and that's one of the things I like about them, because they're a light shoe and they're very moldable, you know. So I think, but yeah, at first, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, am I gonna get these shoes on today?
I know, you have like different feet days, right? So it's like, is it gonna go on Saturday when my feet are the biggest?
No, and some days, you know, I just am like, well, I'm gonna have to wear a little bit older shoe that I can get my foot into. I probably wouldn't wear a brand new pair, you know, if I've had like long rehearsal days and try to put on a new pair, it's probably not gonna happen.
That's true. And that's another thing too, is that your pointe shoes stretch a lot. So you want it to be tightest at the fitting. When the shoe's brand new, you want it to be pretty tight, because throughout the life of the shoe, it's gonna keep stretching and stretching, and then eventually your feet are just gonna be sliding around.
You know, I also put my shoes on to break them into, you know, not just, don't do all this stuff before you've even put them on. You know, put them on, make sure that things are where you want them. Kind of look at where your arch is. Where is your shoe not bending, you know? So
I mean, you've broken in so many shoes in your life that you know exactly where it is. But a lot of dancers, you have to understand that everybody's arch is in a different place. So you want to bend it where your arch is, not where Amanda's arch is. Do you wear anything inside your pointe shoes?
I wear just like those pillows for pointe toe pads, to the point where I would be embarrassed to show them on. But yes, so because I wear them down until they're very thin, because I don't like a lot in my shoe. So
the lamb's wool?
The lamb's wool kind of toe pad. So I think that's what I like to wear. So just kind of, and then I wash them all the time. You know, they're just so worn out. They're just pretty much just a little bit of cover.
So a lot of actually ballerinas do this. A lot of the gel toe pads, they don't shrink. They just stay kind of their shape. So if you are a dancer in training and you know you're going to be wearing the shoes for a very long time, gel might be a great option for you because it doesn't change. But a lot of dancers really like paper thin toe pads. So they'll take a toe pad, like a lamb's wool one that starts out super fluffy and super cloud-like, and then you thin it down to like a little paper thin strip, and then you use that as coverage. So it's basically almost down like a sock, right?
Yes, and that's the thing, it's so funny when I buy a new pair of toe pads, I'm like, no! Like, you have to buy them, you know, but it's such a different feeling. So I do like the more thin toe pad. Yeah, it's very, almost like a sock. Yeah, you could use a sock.
Right, exactly.
And some people do.
Yes, and that's the thing, is that as you dance longer and as you go up to different levels, a lot of dancers start to like their shoes a little bit tighter, and a lot of people like their toe pads a little bit thinner. So you kind of start to merge into your pointe shoe. So it's really important to find your own preferences. Of course, there are professionals that wear like the gel toe pads as well, but most professionals that I've seen, they're typically they like it a little bit thinner. So that's really cool, and that gives you a little bit more control over your shoes too.
It does. I feel like you have more work with your toes. You can feel the floor a little bit more. But I understand as a student, you need that little extra cushion. Your toes are, even us coming back, you know, we're just, our season's getting ready to start and coming back and getting back on point, you know, I was like, oh this hurts a little bit more than I remember.
Right. I know. Coming back into season is like a little rough. Like company class, you're like, ugh.
Yeah, you're like, maybe I need to start, walking around the house. It's one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, okay, toes are ready. It's just it takes time. But even for young students, I can totally understand wearing a little bit more cushion.
Right. I know, but you'll get your callus, and then you'll get tougher. Like literally, you will get tough skin, and then you'll start to like it a little bit better. Well, thank you so much for showing me your Pointe shoes. This is so awesome.